These are the functions, that 13 functions that we are going to cover today. So though this says 13, but I'm doing 2 extra functions. So there are 15 functions, but I consider row and rows as one category. So I've counted it as 1. Okay, so these are the functions. Let's go to sheet 2. So we have some basic data here: publisher, genre, date, quantity, unit, sales. Okay, so the first function that we'll cover is row. This function returns the row number of a reference. The syntax is, if you type anywhere, is equal to row and start bracket. This is the syntax. It is looking for a reference. Now you notice that reference, the argument, okay, for new guys who are joining this for the first time, this is called an argument, the thing that you see within the 2 brackets. And if that argument is within square brackets, that means that argument is optional. Okay, so you do not have to enter the reference. So if you close the bracket and if you press enter, you will get 2. So what exactly is happening here? When you do not enter a reference, okay, it is assumed that the reference of the cell in which the row function appears. So right now the function is in I2, so it will return the row of that cell. So if I type the same thing here, is equal to rows and the bracket, it will give me 4 because this is at the 4th row. If now if I give, let's say, a reference, let's say I give this range. Okay, see what happens. Gives me 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so remember one thing: if a reference is range of cells and if row is entered as a vertical array, row returns the row numbers of the reference as a vertical array. So this is a vertical array. Yeah, but if I do it as horizontal, then see what happens. I'm going to delete this, I'm going to delete this, and if I type row start bracket, and if I select a horizontal range and if I press enter, I will only get 1. Okay, it will return the row number of the leftmost cell in that range. This is pretty simple, so I'll directly move on to the other function, which is rows. Just like we have row function, we also have rows function. So this is row, so there is one with rows. Okay, so I'm going to type equal to rows and start bracket. So it is expecting an array. This function is used to look up and provide the number of rows in each reference, the number of rows of array. So example, the syntax is rows. It takes an argument array. Now note, there is no square bracket around array. So this is not an optional argument. It is a required argument. So the array here is an array or an array formula or reference to range of cells for which you want the number of rows. Okay, for example, if I use equal to rows B1 to B16, and if I close this and if I press enter, I get 16. Yeah, so it gives me the total number of rows in the range. So what is the main difference between row and rows? The main difference is that row returns the row number of the reference and rows returns the number of rows in a reference. It's very, very simple. Now, why are such simple functions so important? Why do analysts need to know about these simple functions? It is because when you are doing complex lookups, these are used. Later in the session, I will share how you can, nest one function inside the other. Okay, so we'll come to that. Moving to the next set of functions, which is column and columns. So we have done this. Let's move to column and columns. Just like we have row and rows, we have something which is called column and columns. Again, pretty straightforward. The column function returns the column number of a given reference. So if I type equal to column, start bracket, and if I select, let's say, genre, and I close this, I get 3. So it is column number 3. C. So column A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. Okay, and this is optional again, like you noticed it has square brackets, so this is optional. Okay, now if the reference is omitted, the column function returns the column number of the cell where the function is entered. So if I copy this across like this, you will notice that the column numbers are getting updated. And if you pass a single reference, then the column function returns the column number of that cell. Now, if the reference argument refers to a range of cells and the column function is entered as a horizontal array formula. Okay, so if I delete this, if I type equal to columns, start bracket, and if I enter a horizontal range, okay, the column function returns the number of the leftmost column. But same thing is with columns. If I do S columns, it gives me the total number of columns in this range. So pretty straightforward: rows, column, and columns. Now we are going to slightly get into more complex functions. So we move on to filter. Now from here onwards, all these functions, they slightly get complex and complex. Okay. Now, what is the filter function? What does it do? This function is only available with Office 365 and updated Excel 2001 version. Why did I say updated Excel 2001? Because if you bought an Excel 2001 version before these functions were released, you will not see them. Okay, but if you have access to the web version of Office 365, you can test it there as well. Now, the filter function allows you to filter a range of data based on a criteria that you define. Let's say I want to return all the records for the publisher Avanquest starting from cell B20. So I want, let's say, here. Okay, so for this we will use the filter function. So I'm going to start typing the filter function and then I will explain the syntax. So once you type, okay guys, if you are watching this video, I would recommend that you keep on trying with me as well. Then only you will understand these. So once you type filter, and obviously you can try this if you have Office 365. So if you type equal to filter start bracket, you will see this, that it is expecting an array argument, and include argument, and if empty argument. Now the array argument is the range or array of values that you want to filter. Okay, so the range that I want to filter is B2 to F16. So this is the first range. Then I'll press comma. The second is include. This is a required parameter. It doesn't have a square bracket. So the criteria that you need to supply as a Boolean array. So the array should return true and false value. It's the height basically when data is in columns, or width when the data is in rows. It must be equal to that of an array argument. Okay. So now I want, what is the criteria? I want to show Avanquest. Okay. So what I will have to do is B2 to B16, I'll select it again, and then I will type equal to an Avanquest. Avanquest. And I close the bracket. Okay. If I press enter, see how the filter function filtered the values from the above table here. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. Once you get the hang up of the filter function, you will realize, hey, I can filter it on so many different ways. Now, the interesting thing, if you attended the previous sessions, I showed you how you can use wildcards to do your search, how you can use wildcards in different other functions. But here, okay, if I want to get all the records which start with, let's say, Ava, I can't use wildcards because filter function does not support wildcards like asterisk and question mark. So is it not possible to achieve what we want? It is, but there is the way that I'm going to show you. It's very interesting. Do you remember the left function that we did in the previous video? Yeah. So we are going to use that with filter. So I'm going to delete this here. So everything goes away. Now I'll start typing filter, start bracket. Okay, the range remains the same, B2 to B16. Okay, now what I want is the name has to start with array. If I would have done, let's say, this is equal to like this, it wouldn't have worked. See, one moment, there's an extra A, let me remove that. It would not have worked. So what we have to do is, array has 3 characters in it. So I'm going to use the left function. Left is comma 3. So if you remember the left function returns the text from the left side of the string. So if I'm saying left B2 to B16 comma 3 and then matching it with Ava, then I should get what I want. Let's see. And we got it. Yeah, it's really, really simple. And if I change this to F16, I'll get the entire data filtered. Okay, just remember one thing. But let's say if I type SID, there's nothing with SID, I get an error. But I don't want an error happening. I want to show that the records are not found. For that, we have something which is called if empty. That means if we did not find the results. So I will type here the message, no records found. And if I press enter, I'll get no records found. So this is much better way of handling the situation rather than not providing this, because if your search text is not found, it'll show you an error there. And if you're creating a dashboard or if you're creating, let's say, some kind of report, then those errors, they look pretty ugly on that document. So you should know that you can pass this value and everything will be okay. Similarly, like the way we used left, you can also use right to find the words which ends with a particular text. So right now I used left. So left will give me characters from the left side. I'm going to use right now. Okay. And from the right, I can type, let's say, IVE, interactive. So if I type IVE, I get Avalon interactive. So remember, you can use left for the from the left side, right from the right side. But what if I want to find the name of the publishers which have the word, let's say, 10 in it? Yeah, how do I do that? To achieve this, what we can do is we can either use search function or we can use find function. Do you guys remember? I've covered search function and the find function as well. So when I talk about these two functions, and if you watched the previous videos, you should not have a problem understanding it. But one thing which I have not covered before, which I will talk about in this, is called the isNumber function. I think maybe I might have covered that. So let's go ahead and then it's a pretty simple function. Okay, so the difference between the search function and the find function is, if you remember, that the find function is case sensitive and search function is not case sensitive. Let's take an example using search function. The search function allows you to find it, if you remember, it allows you to find a text within another text, and it returns the position of the character where the text begins. Now, two things will happen. A numerical value will be returned if the text is found. And if it is not found, if it is not present, then you'll get a hash value error. Let me give you a quick example. Search, find text 10, comma, within text Nintendo, start at 1. I get 4. But if I type SID here, I get hash value error. So if you find the text, it will return the position. If it doesn't find the text, you will get hash value error. So remember this. And obviously, if I'm typing 10 here, it is doing a case insensitive search. But if I use find, then I have to ensure that it looks exactly as it is shown here, otherwise it will not work. Okay, now like I said, when it is not found, the search text is not found, then you get a hash value error. So the filter function, since it accepts only two values, true or false for the filtering criteria, so what we have to do is we must convert this numerical position or the hash value error to true false. So how do I do that? This is where the isNumber function comes. Now the isNumber function checks whether a value is a number or not. It's as simple as that. IsNumber is a very simple function. It will check and tell you whether a particular entry is a number or not. So if the search returns a number, then isNumber will be true. And if it is an error, then it will return false. And this is what the filter function will use. Now, when I enter the formula, you will understand this. Okay. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to start typing is equal to filter, start bracket. So B2 to F16 remains as it is, comma. Okay. Now I'll type isNumber, start bracket. The value. Now what is the value? I have to search for it first. Search, start bracket. What is the text that we are searching for? 10. Okay, where am I searching it? I'm searching it in B2 to B16. Perfect. Once this is done, I'm closing this. So basically, this particular part will return true or false, because isNumber will try to check whether the returned value is a number or an error. Okay, and then I'm going to use no records found, close bracket. If I press enter key, I get Nintendo. Similarly, if I change this range to F, yeah, and if I press enter, I get the entire range. So guys, this is very, very crucial. This isNumber search 10. What I'll do is I'll take you through it once again. Okay. Right. So first part is clear. This is the array that we want to search for. Okay. This is where B2 to F16 is the array. This is the data that I want to filter. What I'm doing is I'm searching for 10 in B2 to B16. So in B2 to B16, I am searching for the text 10. Now, if I press F9, I have explained how F9 works. And if I click on this, you will notice it is 4, 4, 4, 4, hash value, hash value, hash value, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So now what is happening here is it is returning true, false. Now, isNumber is going to check whether the returned value is a number or not. If it is a number, it will return true. If it is an error, it will return false. And the array that is returned will have true and false. And that is how it will check which records to filter and which records to ignore. And obviously this part is to show if there are no matches found. Like I said, please go ahead, try it, and then only you'll get used to this. Similarly, you can use the find function in this formula to do a case-sensitive search. I will not cover that right now. In fact, you can test it in the homework sheet. I've added a homework sheet. You can test that later on. Okay. Moving on. Here, we are filtering based on one criteria. What is the criteria? So we want, let's say, Nintendo, or we are searching for 10. There's only one criteria on which we are trying to search. But what if I want to filter based on 2 or more criteria? Do you remember the sum product function that we did in the last video? Yeah. If you're not clear how sum product works, then I have explained it in the post in Sleek Plan app. I requested somebody to post that question. I'm going to post that link here. So if you visit that link, you will see how I have explained the sum product. In case you're not clear, please visit that link. Now I will show you how to use multiple criteria with 2 conditions, or condition, and the second is and condition, or condition and condition. Okay, so let's cover multiple criteria with or condition first. Okay, we will try to filter this data I'm going to delete this. I'm going to filter this data where the publisher is Nintendo or the genre is shooter. So how do I do that? So I will type equal to filter at bracket array, which is B2 to F16, comma. Then I want to search for Nintendo, right? So remember one thing, I have to put the criteria in a bracket. So I'm saying B2 to B16 is equal to Nintendo. So I'm going to directly select the cell. I can also type the text Nintendo here within quotes. Once this is done, this is the first criteria. Now, since it's an OR condition, I will add a plus sign. If it was an AND condition, I would have used an asterisk, multiply to use both the criteria. Okay, what is my second criteria? I have to check whether this is shooter is equal to shooter, and I close the bracket. Finally, record not found. So I'm going to explain this, don't worry, once again. And if I press enter, I get Nintendo. Yeah, again, if I change this to F, I get the entire range. Once again, let me take you through this. First is the array which we want to filter, which is the data. Here I have two conditions. One is to check if B2 has Nintendo, and the second condition if the genre has shooter. But since it is an OR condition, I've put here plus sign. Okay, and then obviously record not found is if the record is not found, and we get this. Now suppose if both the conditions were mandatory, here instead of doing a plus sign, if let's say both of them are mandatory, that means condition 1 should be true, condition 2 should also be true. In that case, I use an asterisk sign, and if I press enter, I'm getting different result. If I press Ctrl Z, earlier it was giving Nintendo Sports and Avanquest Shooter, because here the shooter condition was true and here the Nintendo condition was true. But now if I press Ctrl Y to redo the thing, you will notice now both the conditions are true. Publisher is Nintendo, genre is shooter. So remember that you can use AND condition or condition in while filtering data. Okay, moving on to the next function, which is sort. The sort function sorts the contents of a range or array. Values can be sorted by one or more columns. Now, sort returns a dynamic array of results. So what do you mean by dynamic array? So if the source data changes, then the sort is carried forward. It will carry forward the changes. The only problem with sort is that the formatting is not carried forward. For example, if you have a rupee symbol in the source data in column F, as you can see here, the sorted data will not have that. You'll have to reformat that. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to delete this here, and I'm going to use the same range to perform the sort. So start typing sort, start bracket. This is the syntax. Now, the first is an array. By now, you already know that you have to either pass a range or an array which you want to sort. Okay, so if I just select B2 to F16, okay, so if you notice rest of the arguments, if you look here, array is the first argument, so it doesn't have a square bracket, so it is required. Rest of the arguments have a square bracket, that means they are optional. So if I close the bracket, if I don't specify those arguments, it is okay. If I press the enter key, you will notice that the data is now sorted. Here, this was data in descending order. Now, if you notice, it is in ascending order. So if I click on this, this is the first argument. Okay. The next one is, if I press comma, is sort index. Now, sort index, it is an optional argument, but what does it do? It is the column index to use for sorting. The default is 1. Okay, if you do not specify anything, then it will take it as 1. Okay, so I'll come to this in a moment. The next argument is sort order. The sort order lets you specify whether you want to um, sort it ascending or you want to sort it descending. That if you do not specify this, the default is ascending order. So if you remember, when I did not give any arguments and I just passed B2 to F16 and I pressed enter, the entire data was sorted in ascending order. Okay, and the last argument is by call. So here it means that if it is true, then it will sort by column. If it is false, then it will sort by row. Default is false. So if you do not specify anything, it will sort by row. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's try different options here. Okay, we already tried sort F2 to F16. So data is sorted in ascending order based on the first column, which is publisher. Okay, now I just mentioned that the default column is 1 and the default sort order is ascending, and the default by column, the fourth parameter, is sort by column. Let's say I want to sort the about data in descending order on the field genre, the second column, okay, not on the first column. So how will I do that? So I will change this to sort B2 to F16, comma. So what is the sort index now? It is 2. I want it to sort by the second column. Okay. And what is the sort order? Let's say descending. So it has to be -1. So this is the beauty with Excel. The moment you keep on typing, Excel will prompt you what it is expecting. So in the beginning, it may be difficult for you to understand, but once you start working with the functions, you will understand Excel's terminology, what exactly it is expecting. So you can directly select that or type that. And if I press enter, see what happens. This is not sorted, but this is sorted in descending order. So remember this, that the second parameter is for the column and the third parameter is for the sorting of order. Now let me share something very interesting. So we just covered the filter function, right? Do you think it is possible to return a sorted data where the genre is only shooter? So this is a very interesting question. I just thought of this. So right now we did only sorting. What if I want to return a sorted data for only shooters? I do not want simulation. I do not want sports. Do you think it is possible? Yes, it is. You can use the filter function with the sort function to return that data. You know what? Let's go ahead and test this. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to type equal to sort, start bracket. Now the array that it is expecting is F2 to, this is the array it is expecting, but I'm not going to provide this array. I'm going to filter the array and then provide that as a range. So I will type filter, start bracket, B2 to F16. This is the entire range that I'm offering, where C2 to C16 is shooter is equal to, let's say, shooter. Okay. And then no data found. I'm going to repeat this, don't worry. Close bracket, comma, sort order 1, which is the column 1. I want it on column 1, and I want it as ascending. Let's close this. Let's press the enter key. Did you notice something? This returned the data where the genre is only shooter, and it sorted it. Once again. So this is the part that I need to explain to you, because that is the array argument. Rest is simple, because this is the column and this is the sort order. So here what I am doing, we just did it in filter. B2 to B16 range, we are filtering based on genre is equal to shooter. And if it is not found, it will return no data found. We just covered that. So I'm using filter inside sort to achieve what I want. This is really interesting, guys. So once you start experimenting with these functions, you will realize that these functions have so much potential. Now, You may have a question. How can we sort by more than one level? Because that is the first question that even I asked myself. Because if you remember on the data sort option, you have different options where you can sort by different levels. Yeah, you can add levels and all that. Can you do that with sort? Unfortunately, the sort function does not provide a way to sort data by more than one level. So does that mean, can we not sort data using different levels? We can. And for that, we will use the next function, which is called sort by. That is the next function that we will cover. The sort by function sorts the contents of a range or an array based on the values in the corresponding range of a range or an array. Syntax is very simple. Again, I'm going to delete this and type here sort by start bracket. So array is the range or the array to sort. We already know that. Okay. So let's say B2 to F16, comma. Now by array. So by array is the range where you want to apply the first criteria. Okay. So if I say E2 to E16, which is the quantity. Okay. And I want it to sort by, let's say, ascending order. So I'll select 1 and I'll close this. If I press enter, I will get all the data where the data is sorted by quantity. Yeah. So if you remember, when we used sort, we were just sorting the data based on a particular column. We did not specify a criteria, but now I've done this. Okay, now let's do one thing. What if I want to also sort by, let's say, genre? Let's do it by genre. So let's click here. Okay, so I'm going to say B2 to F16, E2 to E16, comma 1, and then you press comma again, so that you can specify the second range where you want to apply the criteria. Okay, I'm going to select C2 to C16, comma, and I want it in ascending order. Okay, let's press enter key. Now, if you notice, this data is sorted, this is sorted in ascending order, but I don't see any difference. How would I know which is sorted? Because if I look at this data, yes, this is in ascending order, but this is shooter. How do I actually understand whether it is working or not? Also, if you remember, I mentioned that the formatting is not copied across. So the date format is not copied, the rupee symbol is not copied. So you'll have to obviously format it again. Or you can pre-format the range and it will directly inherit the formatting. Okay. Now, what I want to see is the effect of two-level sorting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to 10. Now, why will I change this to 10? I'm going to show you. Right now, Berkeley racing is 12. Okay, and if I change Berkeley racing to 10, that means this 10 will be grouped with AvingQuest. So AvingQuest 10 is here, Nintendo is here. Okay, so now if I change Berkeley to 10, see what happens. The below table automatically got updated. Like I said, it's a dynamic function. And quantity, obviously, first this entire data is sorted on quantity in ascending order. Then the genre is sorted in ascending order within that particular section. So here R, S, S. So this is now sorted. Okay. So you can go ahead, experiment with this, then you'll understand how this works. The next function that we will cover is unique. So we have covered filter, sort by. Okay. And now moving on to the next function, which is unique. I'm going to delete this. The unique function, it returns a list of unique values in a list or a range. There are a lot of times you want to, now, if you remember, you can also remove duplicates, yeah, by using data duplicates. But what if I want the function to return, let's say, unique values? So let's start typing and then I'll explain it. It'll be much more easier to explain. Unique. Okay, array is again pretty self-explanatory. I want the range. Okay, so if I type B2 to B16, if you notice, rest of the arguments are within square brackets. So if I don't specify rest of the arguments, it's okay. And if I press unique, I will get this. Now B2 to F16. Sorry, my apologies, not F16, B16. So you will only get the unique values in this column. Now, if I would have done F16, then entire row had to be duplicate for it to be removed. But since every column has different values, I got that values. Yeah, so ignore that. We will test it only on one column. So here, once we did that, we noticed that it returned one Nintendo from here, one Berkeley from here, one Quest software, one of this and one of this. This is how you get the unique. Okay, let's check out other arguments. The second argument is by call. So this argument is optional. It is how to compare and extract. By, if you, let's say, choose false, then it will return unique rows. If you choose true, then it will return unique columns. By default, by default, the unique will extract unique values in rows, which is false. And hence, when you did not enter any argument, it took that value as false. If you want to force unique to extract unique values by columns, then set by call to true or 1. So in formulas, remember one thing: true is equal to 1, false is equal to 0. So either you can type true or you can type 1. Excel will treat it as the same. The next parameter is very interesting parameter. Okay, so let's say I want to specify the by call as 0. 0 is what? False, comma. The next parameter is exactly once. Now, what does this parameter do? This is again optional. True means return items that appear exactly once. If it is false, then return every distinct item. I'm going to show it to you with an example that then you'll understand. So I'm going to first select true, which is I return items that appear exactly once. If I close this bracket and if I press the enter key, I get Nintendo Berkeley Quest. That was the default, so I got that. But if I change this to 1, see what happens. I got a calc. Why? Because there is no single entry. All of them have at least 2 entries. So let's do one thing. I'm going to change this one of the Berkeleys to, let's say, Sid. And if I press enter, see what happens. I get Berkeley and I get Sid, because these 2 entries, they appeared only once in the array. Yeah, so remember this, it's a very simple function, but when it is used with other functions, it becomes very, very powerful. Okay, just like we used filter function with the sort function, you can also use filter function with the unique function. So if I want to find all unique values which start with the text Ava, then this is how I'll do it. Let me press Control Z. I'm going to delete this. Okay, and then I will start typing is equal to unique. So what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to find all the unique values which start with the text Ava. Okay, so again I'll have to filter, because remember it doesn't use wildcards. So filter, comma, B2 to B16, comma. I just showed you how to use filter with left, so I'm going to use the same thing. B2 to B16, comma 3 is equal to Ava. Okay, comma, not found. And then close the bracket. So this is the array part of it. Okay, now I want true. I want return unique columns. Sorry, false. I want by unique rows. And then I want return every distinct item. And if I close the bracket and if I press enter, I get Quest software, Quest, and Avalon Interactive. Once again, let's visit the formula. So unique, this is the first parameter, which is array, where I'm filtering the data where publisher is equal to Ava. And that I'm passing as an array to this function. So if I press F9, you will see avnquest, 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 avnquest. So anything which does not have AVA will not be a part of this array. Okay, and then once this is passed, then I'm asking it to be false, return only unique rows. And here I am doing exactly once. Okay, uh, exactly once as false, and hence I get this. This is very simple, guys. It may be very intimidating at the beginning, but once you start working, I've given the homework here. You will love doing the homework. If you're able to do it, trust me, these functions will ultimately be super easy for you. Okay, so now comes the very complex functions. The next couple of functions that I'll be using are lookup functions. So if I go back here, so we have done unique. Now these are some lookup functions: HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, and lookup functions. So we'll cover all of this. Okay, so let's go to sheet 3. These next couple of functions that I'll be using are lookup functions, and these are very important. So I hope that you try and understand how these functions work and do a lot of testing yourself as well, so your hand also gets, you get used to these functions. The first function that let's begin with is HLOOKUP. Okay, the HLOOKUP function finds and retrieves a value from a data in a horizontal table. Okay, the H in the HLOOKUP stands for horizontal, and the lookup values must appear in the first row of the table. So whatever you're going to search has to appear on the first row of the table. Yeah, moving horizontally to the right. HLOOKUP supports approximate and exact matching, which is wildcards as well. Yeah, to find partial matches. Now I have a sample data here on row 1, which is week 1 figures, and I have 3 employees. Okay, where is that? Now I've got 3 employees, which is Raj, Seema, and Sid. In column A, which is here, I have day. Yeah, so I have the weekday, which is Monday to Friday. I'm assuming Saturday and Sunday is work off, so there's no figures for Saturday and Sunday. Now let's say if I want to find out how much sales did Raj have on Wednesday. So by looking at this, it is 1094. So I want to, let's say, find out this value. So how will I do it using HLOOKUP? So let's start typing is equal to HLOOKUP. See, I can explain the syntax of the formulas in the beginning and then start typing the formula, but I am typing the formula, and then as Excel prompts the syntax, I'm explaining it, so it is easier for you to understand how this works. Okay, now the lookup value, the first parameter, is a required parameter. Okay, it is the value to be found in the first row of the table. So the lookup value can be a reference, a cell reference, or it can be a text string. The second one is the table array. So the table array is it can be a range, it can be a table of information, for example, a named range. Yeah, so you can use that as well. The row index, the third parameter, row index number, is the row number in the table array from which the matching value will be returned. Okay, so a row index of 1 returns the first row of the table array. A row index, if you, let's say, type 2, then it will return the second row value of the table array, and so on. Remember one thing, if the row index number is less than 1, then HLOOKUP will return a hash value error because it is below the first row. Yeah, so if row index is greater than the number of rows of the table array, so if you look at this, there are total 6 rows. If you enter more than that, then HLOOKUP will return a hash ref error, which is a reference error. Okay, now The last parameter, it's a very important parameter, guys, which is optional, but it's very important. You need to really understand this. If the range lookup is true, the values in the first row of the table arrays must be placed in ascending order. Right now, if you look at the names, it is in ascending order. Raj, Seema, and Sid. RSS. The second letter is also in ascending order. A, E, I. So second letter of Raj is A, second letter of Seema is E, and Sid. So basically the headers are in ascending order. So if you specify range lookup as true, then ensure that it is in ascending order. Otherwise, HLOOKUP will not give you the correct value. If the range lookup is false, then the table does not need to be sorted. The headers do not need to be sorted. Let's test this. Okay, I'm going to delete this. Now, I want to search, let's say, Wednesday. Where do I want to search? What is the table array? A12, or rather A2 to D6. Yeah, this is my range. It is already sorted. Okay, so it doesn't matter if I'm not going to use true in the last parameter. It's okay. So I'll come to that in a moment. And I press the comma. Now, it is asking the row index number. So if it is for Raj, Raj is at which row? Day is 1. Raj is here, but which row do we want? Wednesday is at 4th row. So day is 1, Monday is 2, Tuesday is 3, and Wednesday is 4. Forget the row numbers which Excel is showing. That is not important. This row number is the position inside the table. So Wednesday, which is here, is at the 4th position. So I type 4. Yeah, and then I want exact match. False. I can also type 0 instead of false. And if I press enter, I'm getting NA. So let's test it again. B10. Actually, it should be Raj. And, B11 is Raj. A2 to D2 is fine. Comma. This should return the value. Am I doing something wrong? A1 to D6. One moment, guys. Yeah, perfect. So let me explain this. B11 is the lookup value. What is the lookup value? We are looking for Raj. Where are we looking for Raj? We are looking for Raj in this particular table. Okay. And Wednesday is at the 4th position. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th position. So we are specifying 4th, and then we are specifying range lookup as false. If I press enter, it is equal to 1094. Now you may say, Sid, why are we hard coding 4 here? Have patience. I will come to this part in a short moment. Yeah, I know some of you may think, why am I hard coding? Is there a way I can get the row number without typing 4? So we'll come to that in a moment. Now, if I change this Raj to Sid, what happens? I get 1041. So Sid is here, Wednesday is here, so the value is 1041. Now, let's understand how approximate match works. Like I mentioned earlier, the values in the first row of the table has to be in ascending order. It is already in ascending order, so that part is taken care of. Now let's write our formula. Okay, if I type Sid, see, I have put an extra D here. Here it is only D, but I put an extra D because I want an approximate match. Okay, and if I press enter, I don't get anything. Okay. Sometimes Excel really behaves funny. Oh, you know why? Because here it is false. I have to change this to true, and I get 1041. So what is happening here? The range lookup, I have now specified this as true. So if this is true, the first thing that you have to ensure that the headers in the first row is in ascending order, which it is. And now it is looking for the approximate match. Raj is not an approximate match of SIDD. It is not an approximate match of SEMA. It is an approximate match of SID, and hence I am getting this. So when you want the best match, not necessarily an exact match, you will want to use approximate mode. Approximate mode is using true. So if you press comma, this is the approximate match. I hardly use approximate, but you may want to use this, for example, while finding an approximate price of an item. So it is best to know how this true parameter works. Okay. The next function that we will cover is VLOOKUP, a very important function. VLOOKUP is an Excel function which looks up data in a table organized vertically. So HLOOKUP is for data which is organized horizontally. VLOOKUP supports approximate and exact match, and like using wildcards and all that. I've not gone into wildcards right now. I've already explained how wildcards work with other functions. You can apply the same thing here and it will work. Now remember one thing, VLOOKUP function only allows right to left lookup. Yeah, so this is the biggest drawback of VLOOKUP. I'll come to that later in a moment. So I'm going to use the same table, yeah, because what I have done is I have created headers here and I have created the headers. I can treat these also as headers. So this table can be used for both HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP. Yeah, so you can read this table vertically as well as horizontally. Now, if I want to find the sales on Wednesday for Raj, okay, using VLOOKUP, then how will I do it? Okay, is equal to VLOOKUP, start bracket. So lookup value is what? What is the lookup value? It is Wednesday now. It is not Raj because we are looking from left to right. I'll select this. And then I'll select the table and Raj is at the second column. So I'm going to press this, comma, index is 2 and I want an exact match. I'm going to do it quickly and then I'm going to explain it. And if I close this and if I press enter, I get 1094, which is for Raj on Wednesday. So now let's click on it again. I'm going to delete everything and I'm going to explain it. Lookup value is Wednesday. Okay, so this is the lookup value. Now, the table array is this entire thing. But while you're selecting the table array, let me share an amazing trick with you. Okay, this trick will help you find the column index number, which is the third parameter. So when you start selecting the range, do you see this at the bottom right corner? Do you see a small white box which says 6R into 2C? So whichever cell you are in, that value will change. That R means row, C means column. So if I want to find the value for Raj, now Raj is the second column. Okay, if I wanted to find it for SEMA, then SEMA is the third column. Similarly for SID, it is the fourth column. So remember this is a neat trick to find the column number. Now, why do I need this? You know, because what happens is what you visually see may not be true. If let's say I wanted to find for SEMA and the column B, the Raj is hidden, then visually SEMA looks like it is in the second column, but actually it is in the third column, not in the second column. So when you use this method, this will tell you which column it is in. Okay, so let's give our table array, that's the range that it is looking for, and the column index number. We just saw using that method, that trick, that the column index number Raj is in 2. So I'm going to type 2. And range lookup is the kind of match. So I'm going to find an exact match, which is false, and I press enter, and you get 1094. You can also type 0. And it will work because false is equal to 0. Now, if I change this Wednesday to Friday, will it work? Let's check. And I get 1842. So it works. Yeah. Here I can see that the column number is 2, sorry. And again, it is hard coded. You may again have a question, said, but why am I hard coding it? Why can't I find that column number? So again, my answer is the same. Patience, will come to that in a moment. Okay, so I'm showing you how the basics works, and then I'm going to make it more and more dynamic. You can also use wildcards using VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. For example, I want the sales for the day which starts with WE. Obviously, we already know that WE is for Wednesday, but if you want to apply this for a different data set, you can apply wildcards as well. So instead of A12, I can actually type WE asterisk, and if you press enter, you will still get the value. Yeah. So if you have multiple entries which starts with WE, then VLOOKUP will return the value from the first match. That is the first row which meets the VLOOKUP criteria. So if there's something below Wednesday, then it will not pick up that. So remember that. The next function that we move on to is, so HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP is done. And I'll come to XLOOKUP in a moment. Let's go to lookup. Let's understand how lookup works. When you need to look in a single row or column and find a value from the same position in a second row or column, you can use this function. Okay, I'm going to use the same table. Let's find the sales on Wednesday for Raj. Again, I'm going to use that. Okay. So the syntax is, there are two ways to do lookup. Now this is very interesting, guys, because lookup is a very powerful function. Now if I, let's say, type equal to lookup and start bracket, you will notice that unlike other functions, Excel gives here two options. Lookup has two options. Okay, these are called forms. There are two forms. The first one is called a vector form, and the second one is called an array form. Now, when should we use which form? It depends. Use the vector form when you want to search one row or one column for a value. You can specify the range that contains the value that you want to match. For example, find the sales on Wednesday for Raj. The lookup value, it is required, since it's not in the square brackets, a value that lookup searches for in the first vector. Lookup value can be a number, text, logical value, or a name or a reference that refers to a value. Lookup vector, which is the second parameter, it is again a required parameter. It is a range that contains only one row or one column. The values in lookup vector can be text, numbers, or logical values. Now, one thing which is important is the values in lookup vector must be placed in ascending order. We have already seen how ascending order worked in the previous function. So you have to ensure that the lookup, when you're using the lookup vector, then you have to take care of the ascending. Otherwise, lookup will not return the correct value. Yeah. Result vector is optional, the last parameter. It is a range that contains only one row or column. So it must be the same size as the lookup vector. If you don't have the same size, you will get an error. Remember, it has to be the same size. The array form, the second form, is provided for compatibility with other spreadsheet programs. But trust me, I never use the second form. The reason is because the functionality is very limited. You should avoid using the second form. You might as well use VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP instead of using this form. We will not cover the array form as this is almost never used. Okay, so I'm going to quickly type the formula. Let's say lookup is equal to, let's say I want to look up for Thursday. Where do I want to look up? Here. Okay, I'm looking for Thursday in this range, and then I'm looking for this range. If I close the bracket, if I press enter, I get 1041. So same thing, I deliberately did not do it here, I did it here, but if you want, you can do it here as well. So instead of Thursday, if I can select this cell. One moment. Thursday comes like this. Getting an error, one moment. A3 to A7, which is why is it not working? Lookup Friday, which is fine. Lookup value, lookup vector is A3 to A7, which is fine. Let's change it to A8, B3 to this. Now, let me check this. One moment, guys. This should work. If I type it here, Friday. Okay, I'll come to this in a moment. If the value does not match, do you know why that happened? I think I know why. I just realized this. If the value does not match, then the problem is the search range or the lookup vector should be in the ascending order. That is the problem. I just realized that. So if I type Friday here and if I make it 7, it did not work because the data is not in ascending order. Friday comes before Thursday in case of ascending order. So if I try it with, let's say, if I format this and I sort it on day as ascending order. Okay. So now it will work. Let's make this 7 and 7. Now it will work. So remember, it has to be in ascending order when you are using this. This, I remember I had made a note on a piece of paper that I would ask you this, and then I got confused why this was not happening. So remember, if you're getting an error, it is possibly because your data is not in ascending order. So now we are getting the correct result. Okay, moving on. Now, when using HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP, we were hard coding the column. So coming back to that point where we were asking that how can we ensure that we do not pass the column number, hard code the column number or the row number. So how do we do that? Okay, so for example, I want to find the sales for Raj for Wednesday. Yeah, but I was manually entering the column number as 2. Similarly, I was doing that in the HLOOKUP. I was typing the row number as 4 for Wednesday. Now, let's make this dynamic. I do not want to enter the row number and the column number. I should just use these values and it should pop up. Okay, so how do I do that? For this, we use something which is called an index function and match function. Now it becomes more complex, guys, so pay attention. First, let's cover index function, and then we'll cover the match function. Okay, and then finally, we will use index and match together to do a VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. Okay, so that's later. We'll keep that for later. Now you may have a question as to why do we need index function and match function if we already have VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP function? It's a very valid question, guys. Even I asked that. It's a very important question. I will answer this question once we understand how to use index match instead of VLOOKUP and 4 functions. I'll give you 4 reasons why you should use index function and match function instead of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. So let's start with index function, how it works. The index function returns a value of the reference to a value from the table or range. There are 2 ways to use the index function. Let me type the function. Okay. So if I type, let's say, is equal to index, start bracket. So it is now again having an array form. And here, what I'll do is I'll cover the first one. It is expecting an array. In the array form of index, the first parameter is an array, which is supplied as, like we already saw, range of cells or an array constant. If you're entering a non-adjacent range for the reference, enclose the reference in parentheses or the brackets. I will come to that in a moment, this is very important, guys. And If each area in reference contains only one row or column, then the row number or the column number argument respectively is optional. So for example, for a single row reference, use index and then you give the reference number, but you don't have to give the row number because we are in the same row, and then you can give the column number. Okay. Similarly, if the array contains only one row or column, the corresponding row number or column number argument is optional. The array, if it has more than one row and more than one column, so what will happen? See, equal to index, start bracket. Let's say if I select this range, now this has more than one row and it has more than one column. Then you have to specify both of them if you wish to take out a value or extract a value from a particular range which falls beyond the row number and beyond one row number and beyond one column number, then you'll have to use both. Let's take an example. Okay, so if I say A1, or rather this particular range, now this is my array A3 to A7, and if I type 4 here, what do you think I will get? I get Tuesday. Why did I get Tuesday? In this range, which is, what range am I using? A3 to A7. In this A3 to A7, the fourth position is for Tuesday, and hence index returned Tuesday for me. Okay. Now, what if I type, now instead of taking one column of range, I'm going to take, let's say, I'm including the headers also now, A2 to B7. Okay, and I'm pressing comma 4, comma 2. And if I close the bracket and if I press enter, it is returning 1031Y. So if you look here, the fourth row is first, second, third, fourth. Fourth is Thursday. And the second column is column B. It is returning 1031, this particular value. So this is how you use it. The second form of index, the first one was array form. The second form is reference. This is again very important. In the reference form of index, the first parameter is a reference to one or more ranges. You will notice these three are same almost. The last one is area number. This is very important, guys. Let me explain what area number is. If you remember in the last video, I spoke about contiguous cells and non-contiguous cells. So this is a contiguous range. This is one area. If you have areas like this, then it has three areas. Okay, so if I look at this range, this is one area, this is the second area. So if I want to find, let's say, week 1 figures using index, how will I do it? Is equal to index, start bracket, okay, and I'm going to press the type bracket again because I'm going to use two areas. If you remember, I mentioned earlier that when you have two areas, you have to put them in a bracket. Okay, so index, start bracket, A1 to B6, or rather I'll just select this range. Okay, and then what I will do is I'll press the comma. Okay, and then I'm going to select this range. I'll explain what am I doing. One moment. Yeah, comma. This is the second area. I can use the second table, but I'll show it in one table first, and then I'll use the other table. 1, comma 2. Okay, or rather, let's try it with 1 first, and then I'll tell you what it does. If I press enter, it is giving me an error because it's an overfill here. I'll do it in empty cell. So I'll type equal to index, start bracket again, this, comma, this is the first area. Second area is this, comma, 1, comma 2, comma 1. We have to close the bracket, which I have not done. So I'll close the bracket here, 1 here, and then I'm going to type 2 here, which is column number, and the negative 1842. So let me explain this. This is very crucial, guys. This part is what I am saying, that there are two areas. One is this area and the other is this area, okay, which is C3 to D7. So first area contains Day and Raj, second area contains Seema and Sid data. Okay, now this section is the row number, okay, and this is the column number. And finally, I am specifying from which area I want the data. If I type 1, it will return the value from the first area. And hence I got 1842. Yeah, because first row, second column from area 1. But if I change, so this is first row, second column from area 1, I got 1842. But if I change this to 2, I am telling Excel that I want the first row, second column from the second area. So what do I get? 1608, which is this value. This is how you use two areas in index. Very important, guys. So if you want, I can also go ahead and I can use this as the one area, and in the second one I can use this area. And if I press enter, I get 1011. Why? Because first row, second column from the second range, which is 1011. But if I change this to 1, it is going to pick up 1842 from the first. Remember, this is very important, guys. Index, we'll use index later on. Okay, let's go ahead. The next function that we will do is match. The match function searches for a specified item in a range of cells and then returns the relative position of that item in the range. Syntax is very simple. Okay, so what I will do is, if I want to, let's say I'm going to delete this, not required here. Okay, the table which is at row 20, do you see this small table? This is a part, this is an argument of the match function. So if I type equal to match and I press the bracket, lookup value is very simple. That is what we want to look up. Lookup array is the range where we want to look up, and the match type argument. This is what I've done is I've already pasted everything here so that it is easier for you to understand. You can only choose values, what each argument does. So if you choose 1 here for as a match type, then the match finds the largest value that is less than or equal to lookup value. If you choose 0, match finds the first value that is exactly equal to lookup value. Similarly, the other options. Okay, so I am going to now test this. Let's say I type, I'll do it here, then you can do it at that match start bracket. Okay, now I want to find the position of, let's say, Wednesday, which is this here. I'm not doing here because there's too much text and it may look very confusing. So I'm doing it on empty cell and then I'll copy the formulas in. So I'm looking for Wednesday. Where am I looking? The lookup array is here. This is where I'm looking up for Wednesday. Then I press comma and I want an exact match 0. And I close the bracket and it returns 5. So Wednesday is at the 5th position. That's how you use match. Now let's understand how 1 and -1 match works. Okay, so if I type match AF, let's take it as which value should I take? I'll take this. Okay, 1500. Okay, let's take it as 1500. Okay, this is my lookup value. Now, if you look, there's no value which is as 1500. That's why I've taken 1500. And the range here is, let's say, this range. Okay, let's take this range. I'm going to delete this. Okay, and then I'm going to type 1. Why am I doing 1? Because if I type comma, 1 is less than. So we will first test 1. And if I press the enter key, what do I get? I get 2. Why do I get 2? Can you guess? So what does 1 do? Look here. Match finds the largest value that is less than or equal to lookup value. The value in the lookup array argument must be placed in ascending order. It is already in ascending order. Thank God for that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got the value. And it says 2. So the nearest match is 1311, which is at the second position. Similarly, if I type -1, comma, and if I take greater than, that's the next parameter. If I press enter, I don't get anything. That is because I have not selected the right range. Hold on. This should be this range. It has to be in descending order. And if I press enter key, I get the third position, which is here. So match finds the smallest value that is greater than or equal to lookup value. The value in the lookup array argument must be placed in descending order, like I said. So this is ascending order and this is descending order. When you're using 1, then use in ascending order. When you're using -1, use in descending order. Remember that, guys. This is very, very crucial. Okay. The next function that we will use is XMatch. It is similar to match function, but what it does is it searches for a specific item in a given range and returns the position as an index number. So what is basically, I mean, you'll ask me, what is the difference between match and XMatch? XMatch is more flexible than the match function. Okay. I just see somebody's asking XLOOKUP. Don't worry, I'll come to XLOOKUP. So XMatch is more flexible than the match function. The syntax is almost the same. So XMatch, if I, let's say, start typing, is equal to XMatch. Let's see what the syntax is. It is lookup value, lookup array, match mode, and search mode. Okay, lookup value, lookup array, you already by now know what these parameters are for. What is match mode and search mode? Okay, what I have done is I have also pasted the match mode and search mode at the bottom so you can see how these work. Okay, remember, unlike the simple match function, XMatch offers a wide range of alternative search modes as we have shown here. So you can try with different options. Okay, if you want, I can show you a couple of examples. Let's say here I will type equal to XMatch, but I'll not go too much into detail. It's very simple. If you know match, then you can try this different options and it will work. So if I type 1300 lookup value, and if I select this range, and if I type 0, I get NA. Why do I get NA? Because the formula cannot find a value which is exactly equal to 1300. But if I try 1311, which is one of these values, then it returns the position. Similarly, you can try -1 and 1, and it will give you the values. Once you will try these functions, you will notice it's pretty easy. So now we have seen how index and match works. Now let's use index and match together instead of a VLOOKUP. Okay, just let me check if I have covered everything. Okay, so I'm going to first cover the basic part and then I'll come to XLOOKUP Isha. Don't worry. Okay, so one moment. Yeah, I'm just referring to my notes. Okay, now we have seen how index and match works, right? So let's first do a VLOOKUP formula. I'm going to use a VLOOKUP. And let's say I am searching for Friday, yeah, in A2 to D7. Okay, comma. Here the column index, okay, if I'm typing, let's say 2, and then I'm typing 0, I'm hard coding and then I will change it. I get 1842 because in the second column, where am I getting that value from? It is pulling up from the second column, and for Friday, that is what I selected here, right? For Friday, 1842. Okay, so I'll do one thing. I'll copy this formula here only, and then I will change it. So this is the VLOOKUP formula. Very important. Now here the 2 is hard coded. So we will replace that with match. Okay, so before I put it in this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type here first is equal to match, so that you understand how I'm going to embed match there. B11. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to match, let's say Friday. Okay. One moment. No, let's try to search SID first. It'll be much more easier. And then I'll select this particular range, which is fine. And the match type, let's make it exact match. If I close this, I get NA. Why is it not perfect? What am I searching for SID? Obviously, the range has to go up. Match SID. Lookup value, lookup array is D2, A2 to D2. Enter, and I get 4. So now what I'm doing here is I'm searching for SID in this range. Now the SID is at the 4th position. Okay, so I'm getting this here. This I will use here. Okay, so how do I do that? So I'm going to copy this formula from here. And instead of 2, I'm going to paste this here. Yeah, and if I press the enter key, I get 1608. Why did I get 1608? Because for Friday and for SID, the value is 1608. So now I'm using these two cells. I'm going to color this cell as orange and the text as, let's say, black, so it is clear. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking for Friday and I'm looking for SID here using a match function. So match function is returning the column number. So I do not have to type the column number anymore. So if I change this value to Raj, will it work? Let's check. And I get 1842, which is this. So this is how you can use that. Now coming to the next lookup function, Isha, this is for you, is XLOOKUP. Use this function to find strings in a table or range by row. Okay, so let's go to sheet 4. This is very important, guys, XLOOKUP. And then we'll move to index match. Here I have 2 ranges. Okay, the very basic databases. In the first database, I've got 3 fields, SKU, price, and item, which is this. In the second, I have employee, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, sales. Okay, don't go by these prices. These are not the prices of these phones. I just randomly created these values. These are not the actual prices. Okay, these are just random figures to explain how the function works. Now I'm going to show you 3 ways how you can use XLOOKUP. The first one I'm going to return, and the first one is I'm going to return the item name from an SKU number. So this is the item name and this is the SKU number. So I'm going to return this first and then I will do this and then I will come to this. Okay, so the first one, XLOOKUP. Here I'm going to use XLOOKUP instead of a VLOOKUP. I could have used VLOOKUP to get the name of the function. So let's type XLOOKUP. Lookup value is SKU 009. Yeah. What is the lookup array here? Can you tell me? If you look at this, what is the lookup array? So equal to lookup start bracket. Lookup value is already SKU this. We have already understood that. Lookup array is the range or the array that you want to search. Yeah. So this is where the SKU is. Remember, you're not going to select the full table in this case. Here, the lookup array is where you want to find the search value. Then you press comma here. And then you want to return the value from which column, which is this. So in VLOOKUP, what we were doing is we were entering the column number. You don't have to do that here anymore. It's pretty straightforward. Just enter the lookup value where that lookup value is present and where do you want to pull up the value from. It's as simple as that. So what we were doing is, here we used XLOOKUP as a VLOOKUP, but obviously with lesser arguments. This is the interesting part, guys. Here I'm doing a lookup on the left side. Okay. Now, this is interesting because if you remember, VLOOKUP cannot do this. So how will I do this? Can you guys guess? So I will type equal to XLOOKUP, start bracket, lookup value this time is Samsung Galaxy. Now, where is Samsung Galaxy? It is in this range. So I'll type comma, it is in this range, comma. Now, where do I want to return the value from? I want to return the value from this. So I close the bracket and I press enter and I get the SKU. This you could not have done with VLOOKUP because, like I explained, it looks from right to left. You can't do it here. So here XLOOKUP wins over VLOOKUP. Now, this is the third option where you can use XLOOKUP, which is very interesting because I want to now look up horizontally and vertically. Okay, so let's take this table now. If I want the total sale of, let's say, Rajesh Rai for week 1. Okay, so I'm doing 2 lookups horizontally and vertically. So it should return 45,000. So how do I do that? So I'll type equal to XLOOKUP, start bracket. I'm not explaining all the arguments, guys, because we have short of time. I'm just giving you examples so it is easier for you to understand how this is working. Okay, now the return array. This is the most important part, guys. Okay, now I have to use another XLOOKUP inside XLOOKUP so that it returns the array. Let me write the formula and then I'll explain it. XLOOKUP, start bracket. Now, what am I looking up this time? I'm looking up for week 1. And what is the array that I'm looking up week 1 in? It is here. Okay. And then the returning range here is this. Okay, close the bracket and close the bracket. Let's check once again. This is the first value that I'm looking up, which is Rajesh Rai. I'm looking for Rajesh Rai in B16 to B20. Yeah, B16 to B20 is your range where the employees and the sales is. Then I'm using XLOOKUP as the for the third argument. Okay, what am I doing here is I'm searching for H11, which is week 1. Where am I searching? I'm searching it in B15 to F15, which is the header here. Okay, and after that, what am I returning? I'm returning B16 to F20. If I press enter, I'm getting value. Okay, now let's check why am I getting the value. This is fine. B16 XLOOKUP H11. H11 is week 1 in C15 to F15. One moment, this should work. H10 to, see, this is what happens when you're writing a lot of formulas, when you're explaining a lot of formulas, a small error can create an issue. So I'll have to check now. H10 is fine. B16 to B20, it is the lookup array, which is also fine. XLOOKUP H11 is fine. C15, this is B15. Okay. This is B15 to F15, which is fine, and this is 16. Let's try. Yeah. So small error in a row or column can make an error. So here I'm searching for H11 in B15 to F15. I was taking only C. It should be the entire range. Okay. Now, if you press F9 here, you will notice that this is the array it is returning: 33,000, 43,000, 45,000, 35,000, and 33,000. This is the return value. And then XLOOKUP is searching in this and returning the value, which is 45,000. So remember, this is how you can use it. Now, the last part that I want to cover is index match. Okay, we don't have much time, so I'm coming to index match. Remember, if you get stuck, don't worry. You can ask questions in Sleek Plan app and I'll answer all the questions. I've already answered a lot of questions yesterday, so don't worry. Now, let's understand how we can quickly use index match instead of VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, or even XLOOKUP. Okay, so let's say if I want to find the name of the item using SKU. So I'm going to delete these values, or rather I'll do it here at the bottom. So if I type equal to index, or rather I'm going to use that, so I'll do it here, equal to index, start bracket, and B1 to, let's say, D11. Okay, and if I type comma, it is asking for the row number. Let's say if I type 6 row and the third column, see what it returns. I'll tell you the importance of this. It returns the name of the item. Okay, so this, you can use the index to return a particular name of an item at a particular position. Now, this logic has to be used with index match. Yeah, here I have hard coded, let's say, the row and column values. So 6 and 3 is hard coded. Now we will make this row and column values dynamic. So how do I do it? So let's first replace this part. Okay, so how do I do it? So I will change this to match B16, B2, B12, 0, bracket, 1. Let me quickly check. B1 to B11. What am I matching here? B2. This range should be this, which is fine. Match B16, which is Anjali Ray. Let's do one thing. Let's match SKU. We'll do it for SKU. And then we have D2 to D12 or D11. And okay. And 0 is fine, comma 1 is fine. Let's break it up. First, I'll write the formula here is equal to index, start bracket, and B1 to D11, comma 6, comma 3. And here we have 6. We have to return 6 now. Okay. So if I type equal to index, comma, item name SKU, if I return the row number, which is the 6th position, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th, 6th position. Okay, so I will type is equal to match lookup value is this, comma lookup array is this, comma 0 match type. Am I getting 6 here? Perfect. So I will copy this and replace 6 here. And I press the enter key. See, it still works. Similarly, you can change the column number. Now, what is the column number here? Column number I want is third column number, which is an item name. So how do I do that? You can again use a match. I can show you how to do this match, but I want you to do it yourself. Okay, I want you to use C15. Okay, and I want you to return. So how do I return 3? So this is first column, second column, and this is the third column. So in this formula, which is index B1 to D11, I've used match to return the row number, and in the column number, I want you to use match again and return me number 3 here. So I've done 6 here. So here, do a 3 and then replace this. It's very, very simple. What I will do is I'll also explain this index match in the Sleek Plan app so that you can also see how this works. Now, coming back to the question which I asked you earlier, why do we need index function and match function? VLOOKUP cannot look to its left. So XLOOKUP can do that, but VLOOKUP cannot do that. Index match can do a left lookup with ease. Very easily it can do that. So that's the first benefit. The second benefit is there is no limit for a lookup value size. When you're using the VLOOKUP function, the total length of your lookup criteria cannot exceed 255 characters. Otherwise, you'll end up having the hash value error. So if your data set contains long strings, index match is the only working solution. Now, the third option, why is it better, is because high processing speed. So if you search internet, you'll see a lot of experts, they vouch for index match instead of VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP. It has got higher processing speed. The third thing is, if you remember, when you delete columns, you get href errors in your formula. That is what will happen with VLOOKUP because the column number changes. Yeah. But if you're using index match, you will not get that error. VLOOKUP formulas, basically they get broken or it delivers incorrect results when a new column is deleted or added. Yeah, but index number, it calculates it real time and then returns. So for example, here we saw that it returned the number 6th position at real time. It was not based on a hard-coded value. So remember that this is the fourth benefit. So whenever you get a chance, stop using VLOOKUP, use index match. XLOOKUP also is a good, great function, but if you are using an old version of Excel, I would recommend using index match. It's very, very powerful. I'm ready to take a couple of questions, guys, but in case there are more questions, don't worry. I will answer all your questions in the Sleek Plan app. If you go to Sleek Plan app, you'll see that I've answered 10 to 12 questions yesterday with screenshots.